Hi, everybody. This is Dan with BVS Film Productions, and we're here with CommTALK Podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Brad Kayton. Is that correct? Okay.
That's right.
He is
Yep.
the Regional Director of CFO Centre. Hi, Brad. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Dan. How are you? Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Awesome. Oh, thanks. Our
Yeah, yeah.
pleasure. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're currently doing.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm at the CFO Center. That's why we're talking today, and I've been here about 3.5 years, close to it. And I kind of fell into it, interestingly, in an unusual way. So I was a fractional CFO for a number of years before joining the CFO Center because I started an angel capital fund called the Investors Collaborative, or it was a bunch of us, a few of us started it.
Hmm.
And after not making any money for a few years, because you don't as an angel capitalist, you don't make a 2 and 20 like the venture capitalists do.
Yeah.
You eat what you kill as you go along, your exits. And so after 3 years of not having any exits, because of course startup companies, their exit periods have continually elongated from what it used to be 20
Uh,
years ago,
yeah.
and when I was doing it. So eventually I started doing fractional CFO work.
Hmm.
And before that, I was an entrepreneur. So I was in Silicon Valley for 12 years, Austin, Texas before that, did a CommTech degree at UT Austin,
Hmm.
MBA degree there, and was really into the tech world for quite a while, actually, 12 years in Silicon Valley,
So
living
that's
out.
the boom, the boom.com boom, or right around there.
Yeah, well, I moved out there in 98. So it was the boom in 99, 2000. And then I was
Well,
there for the
okay.
crash. And
Yeah,
we were so close to selling our company that we had co-founded.
yeah.
For $1 billion. There's a whole
Oh,
story there that's good to tell someday. It goes on for a while. We
uh,
uh, we held out and we shouldn't have.
oh well. Hey,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
the
live
timing's
and learn.
everything. Anyway, yeah. Then until 2010, then I moved out to the Boston area where I am now.
Yeah, gotcha. Great. So, what is the CFO Center? What
Yeah,
exactly
great.
do
Yeah,
you do?
thanks for asking. Well, it's CFO Center is the world's largest and oldest fractional CFO practice.
Hmm.
So that's all we do is fractional CFO work. Part-time, there's really two major services we have. Part-time ongoing CFOs
Hmm.
for small, medium-sized business, lower middle market, as some refer to it.
Hmm.
Companies that are from $2 to $100 million would be the range, or maybe the sweet spot is 5 to 100 million, 5 to 30 million in annual revenue, something like that.
Hmm. Okay.
These are companies that are growing and have sophistication and revenue lines, but
But
they're
are like
not so
help with
big
the
that they
accounting
need.
end of it, right?
Yeah, right. How do you make
Okay.
the most of it, right? How do you
Yeah.
expand it, and how do you do it more profitably?
Yeah.
And CFOs are expensive. They fully burdened CFO costs can be $500,000 for the top
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
And we offer that top talent, but in a fractional way, right? Literally a fractional space. So you get
Smart.
that injected into a small, medium business just when you need it. It's like a
Yeah.
faucet. You can turn it on and up and down as you need it month to month. So that's very handy in that regard. That's
Yeah.
what we do. And the other services for larger companies, middle market companies, we call CFO CFO. So it's a peer relationship with the current CFO for things they don't have time for, don't want to do, don't have the skills for, et cetera. Yeah, so
That's
that's what we
such a
do.
great idea. I mean,
Yeah,
and you know
yeah,
what?
it is,
You
huh?
see that in almost every industry anymore. It's starting to go that direction. We use people all over the world, just like Pakistan and, Philippines, whatever it might be. And to be able to just interject someone that's such a pro at they're doing is so invaluable nowadays.
Dan, you're absolutely right, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
been the paradigm for a while, is
Yeah.
the gig economy that's been developing. And now what's interesting is seeing that at the leadership level or the C-suite level, right? Where you can
Yes.
bring in a fractional marketing executive for that
Hmm.
critical period of time.
Yeah.
Uh, because once you've created the whole marketing campaign and had it out there for a while, maybe you don't need
Yeah.
that chief marketing officer. So a fractional can come in, so you can time when you need the skills to the life cycle of the company up and down.
Yeah.
Fractional CFO being a great idea. You don't need anything early on, and then if you can start wrapping that up over time, and maybe
Yeah.
it really ramps up high during a financing, or you're acquiring a company, or you're getting, and then you ramp it back down over time.
Yeah.
And doing that at the leadership level is I think the next wave of this gig economy.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If at one point one of the people, the company says, "Hey, I really like this person. I'd like them on full time." Do you guys
Mhm.
have something to work on an
Yeah,
acquisition
we do.
type
We do. Yeah,
situation?
there's a
Okay.
way to make that happen. I mean, we don't want to get in the way of
Yeah.
of CFO going in with a company. So we certainly have, and that happens. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people that come to work with us are folks that don't want to have the corporate grind, don't want to just, they like the variety. They're later in their
Okay.
career.
Mm-hmm.
Our minimum requirement is you have to have been a CFO for 5 or 7 years. I look for 7 years in two different companies. So the
Yeah.
diversity and the depth and breadth.
Successful, I'm assuming. Right.
Well, at least one of them, at least
At
one of
least
them,
one. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
certainly we don't want people that have, done anything illegal or had a flop.
Right. Right. Yeah. That won't
um,
work.
um, yeah, anyway, so they tend to be people later in their career, right? They kind
Okay.
of want to
Yeah.
give back.
Yeah.
And so
Smart.
most of them don't want to take on a full-time job. They're not looking for it, but
Yeah.
it happens. And sure, that works.
Okay, cool. So, who exactly could benefit from something like this? You don't want someone that's $50,000 a year. I'm assuming you want someone that's
Right.
really
That's
got,
true.
starting to have issues with like payroll and things that they don't normally, you know, aren't normally seeing, right?
Yep. Yep. No, that's a
Yeah.
great point. Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a Goldilocks situation, right? You've got to be far enough along to have more high level and complicated financial accounting
Yeah.
needs,
Yeah.
but not so advanced that, you're $100 million or more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it tends to be for a reason. The company's growing fast, and it's like, oh my gosh, where's all the cash going?
Yeah.
That's a great situation. You're helping a company manage their growth. That's one scenario that
Yeah.
you want to bring in a fractional CFO and maybe other fractional executives for that matter,
Okay.
or executives, or really in essence a combination of the two. I think is
Yeah.
probably the best strategy for most companies. That's one scenario. Another is we want to raise capital. We want to grow. Can you help us do that? Create the due diligence room, the pitch deck, help run the investors relation program,
Oh, so you
et
could handle
cetera.
that too.
And we're not broker
Yeah.
dealers, right? But running the program and maybe working with a broker dealer or a finder, something like that. Or hey, I want to sell the company.
Yeah.
Second, third generation, 30% of our companies actually are family-based businesses,
Okay. Yeah.
that intergenerational. And so how do you help with, and there's different ways to do that. Everyone thinks of selling to a competitor or something like that, but there's ESOP programs where you create a retirement program. You can
Hmm.
sell to the employees, you can sell to your partners. There's a number of different ways to exit. And so
Yeah.
that's another reason we're brought in often.
Wow, that's interesting. I'd be curious to know what percentage of businesses out there could actually use your services. Is there like a ratio out there somewhere, do you think? 50% or
Well, that's a
assuming
good
the
way to
United
look at
States?
it. Well, I guess there's a sort of the pyramid of businesses, right? If you look at it that
Yeah.
way. And most businesses are, mom and pop shops, as some people
Mm-hmm.
call it, small
Yeah.
businesses or the
Right.
personal business. You're running your own photo business. Those
Hmm.
folks don't need a CFO.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't.
Right.
It's when you have multiple employees and you're moving up that pyramid. But it's not the top of the pyramid. It's not the
Hmm.
giant corporations over $1 billion.
Yeah.
There is this interesting range though of the what's called the middle market, which is
Yeah.
maybe $100 million to $1 billion, to be able to bring in CFO level skills on a project basis, which
Yeah.
is a different service that we run.
Yeah.
Um, so really, it depends on the reason and the size of the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. So, all right, the big question, tariffs.
yeah,
How
yeah.
is that affecting what you guys are doing, or is it, and your
Yeah, no,
customers?
it is
Yeah.
certainly. It depends on the type of company, right? So
Hmm.
service companies, software companies, they're not really affected by the tariffs.
Yeah.
I mean, indirectly they are, or soon directly, right? If the economy shrinks or if there's a recession,
Yeah.
clearly but directly, they're not. There's no fees on software and services,
Mhm.
and a lot of our companies are like that, so they're fine. So we tell them relax, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And we generally tell the hard goods manufacturers and those that import raw materials where they are really affected by tariffs, the same thing, which is even before it was on again, off again, it was like, just, hold the course. Let's map that supply chain issue. We're doing a lot of that work.
Hmm.
And that's going down three layers. That's saying not just your suppliers, but how about your
Yeah.
suppliers and the suppliers to your suppliers? Where are they getting their goods from?
Okay.
Because you'll see that price bubble up. So you've got to, you never went that deep before. You didn't really think you needed to. Now you need
Yeah.
to do that. So it's that kind of analysis, which is
Yeah.
an operations as much as a financial activity.
Interesting.
But that's a good thing to do now for sure.
Hmm.
There's this pause going on right now, right? So the advice we gave 30 days ago is different than today.
Yeah.
But the main advice is still the same, which is map your vendors, know where else you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you're susceptible to it, the more you go. You've got to get flexibility right now.
Yeah.
We have one client that with the 10% tariffs, they've had success splitting them with three of their main vendors, so 5% each,
Oh,
and
that's
they're
smart.
just
Okay.
marching on their way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when it's 10%, you can do that. When it gets crazy numbers, well,
Yeah.
it becomes a trade war, right? With some of the numbers we saw, 145% with China.
Yeah. Wow. That's hard to believe. Well, that's a whole nother world they're figuring out. And I think it's a negotiating thing. We'll soon find out, right? But
That would be a great outcome. I don't know if I think
yes.
that's part of it. I don't think that's been all of it. And I think it changes a little bit as they go.
Yeah.
But if that's where we end up and we get out of this, the markets have come back, they dove, right? They've come
They always
back.
do.
They're still not
Yeah.
near the earlier the year high, nowhere near.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we can still avoid a disaster. Many are predicting recession. It's about a 60% odds recession at this point.
Yeah. Were we in one already? I don't
Or are
know.
we in one already, right? We
Yeah.
very well may be, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
it is psychology. It's if we tell ourselves we're in a recession, enough people
Yeah.
start saying it and believing it and pulling back, that's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And
Yeah.
it does feel that that's going on. So you're hearing that in conferences and webinars and everywhere I go. People are pulling back. People are waiting. Like, okay, you're excusing doing nothing. And
Yes.
doing nothing by
Exactly right.
definition, especially in an inflationary economy, which clearly tariffs provide, is
Yeah.
sort of the definition of a recession. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I've always found there's always these disruptors, in the financial world as well as technology, with ChatGPT and all these things, and they're always going to be there. And the people that stay on top of it are the ones that are going to come ahead in the long run. The ones that pull back, I've always found, some of them just go out of business. They're just not thinking through everything, and they
That is the
drink the
one
Kool-Aid.
silver lining, isn't it, in the workforce is productivity,
Yeah,
which in the 90s is which grew the 1990s economy.
yeah,
But then it stabilized because there's only so much you can do. But now with AI and chat GPT,
yes,
people are becoming very productive,
yeah,
right? I think a lot of us are having these experiences where, oh, that would have taken me 2 days and it took me, 20 minutes or, whatever, an hour or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
That's productivity by definition. So
yeah.
that's the bright spot. That's a bright spot because you can drive an economy with that or a recovery with that if
Yes.
that's what it ends up being.
Yeah. No, so true. So let me ask you this about communication issues. So are there any communication issues that are common with your clients that you see that relate to your business?
That's a great question. I, there's always a communication issue. I think is the answer. It's like, what is the communication issue? It's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like we do business diagnostics. Most consultants do to various degrees.
Hmm.
Is the communication not there among the employees?
Yeah.
Right? Is the communication not there among the executive team? Do they not understand the leadership?
Yeah.
How about the communication to the market with the product? Inevitable, or how about intergenerational? So if I mentioned we had 30% or so of our businesses are family-based businesses,
Hmm.
does the next generation know the plan for this? Sometimes, a lot of times they don't know what happens next, and there's so
Yeah.
much hostility there. So
Hmm.
that communication sometimes broken down. So I think that's a great question, and it really is which communication is, I guess, maybe is the weakest, right? It might be the
Yes.
best way to say it algorithmically, and then
Hmm.
help with that.
Yeah. So now, do you guys go in with like an evaluation of some sort? Is that the process initially?
Yeah, it is. And that's a great question. And that's what attracted me to the CFO Center when I
Mm-hmm.
first was learning about and interviewing there and talking to the folks. Is that it's a different approach. It's okay. You're talking with a company that needs a CFO for some reason.
Yeah.
So let's not work up a work plan from the bottom up on what you hear. Start with where are you trying to go? What's your North Star? Where are you trying to drive the ship to? And
Hmm.
let's figure out how we get you there. let's
Yeah.
let's let's figure out what the business support metrics are, your vendors, outsource vendors. Do you have the right banking situation? That's easy stuff. We can get in there and do that 30, 60, certainly in 90 days.
Yeah.
Operationally, what are you doing there? What are your systems, KPIs? How are you doing profit and cash flow, things like that? And then strategically,
Yeah.
right? There's always strategic angles, whether it's better business planning, expanding internationally, raising financing, selling the business,
Mm-hmm.
expanding by acquisitions, so we kind of get in there and look at that. There's a whole thing we have at the CFO Center, we call it 12 boxes, that actually
Mm-hmm.
lays it all out. It
Nice.
very much a grid fashion in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to, help companies get to that North Star by building up and getting that done over a timeline.
Yeah.
And that works out. That's an exciting thing because it's not so much you're trying to bill hours or play a role. It's you're trying to help the company achieve that mission. And it
Yeah.
reminds me, going back earlier in our conversation when I was involved with that angel capital fund, it was very similar in that
Mm-hmm.
we were investing in companies that were trying to reach a mission. And I feel I'm doing the
Yeah.
same thing with these companies.
Yeah.
I stay on as an account manager as the CFOs come in and work the account, hopefully over many years, is getting
Mm-hmm.
that company or that ship to its, North Star direction, destination.
Yeah. And you know what? I could see egos coming into play. I mean, I work with big companies all the time. Our company does as well. And I see that there could be some issues, especially with startups, that actually get to a certain level. You got to tread lightly sometimes, I would think. You see that anywhere? I mean,
Oh, all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
I thought
sure.
so.
All
Yeah.
the time. All the
Yeah.
time. I mean, it's always about the people, right?
Yeah.
If it
Yeah.
was too bad, it would be so easy if it was just the PowerPoints and the execution and taking the orders.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always working the people. That's where here I go again. I'm like the fractional executive record
Mm-hmm.
going on and on again. But that is the nice thing too about when you come in as a fractional leader, whether it's we come in finance, but from any direction, is you're by definition not coming in there to take a permanent job. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess sometimes that transitions into that, and I
But
guess
that's
that
so
can be scary.
appealing. I would think that's so appealing to companies, right? It's got to be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And even if you are going to hire full time, just try before you buy. Right, might be the old saying. Right,
Yeah.
so come
Yeah.
in here, and this is done so often. Right, come in here and be a contractor for the first 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, you don't have to be the firm. You just be a person. For firms, fractional firms, just have a bunch of people and more processes. Right, to the
Yeah.
same concept. But it's a great way to get started because then the person works and that they're excited. You get to know them. It's hard when you just hire someone off the street, so to speak, with a huge salary,
Yeah.
350, 400,000 all in comp with a 1 year
Yeah.
guaranteed clause. It's like, oh boy, I hope they work out.
That sure sounds like the
Just avoid
Browns
all that.
hiring
Avoid all that, right?
quarterbacks. You know, our
Right.
quarterback situation is like that with the Browns. It's like, well, can we just try the guy out for a while?
Yes.
It's like, come
Don't pay
on,
the big
man.
upfront contract until, yes, you have,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that
yes.
that makes sense. And I actually worked with someone locally here that started her business from nothing, and it's well over $200 million now. I remember walking into her office 25 years ago, and they were just in the phone book, making phone calls, ripping pages out, cold calls. And I
Wow.
asked her one day, I said, what do you do when you hire someone at a level that, you really want to, and this was probably when she was at maybe like 50 million. And what do you do? And she says, I always bring them on as a consultant first
Yeah, there we
for
go. Yeah.
6 months, you
Hmm.
know. And if they work out for that 6 months, then I'll either offer them a position or I'll say, we'll go another couple of months just to see to make sure. But and that was such wise, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it
information
makes
when I
total
heard it.
sense. Makes
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And for both parties too, right? Because
Exactly.
right, you don't want
Yeah,
to say, "Hey, I've just taken a new full-time job," and you get 4 months into like, "God, I hate this place. I don't want
yeah,
to work here."
yeah,
And then you just
exactly.
told your whole family you've done it, right? So to tell someone that, yeah, we're doing 6 months, it works out for both parties.
Especially if you're
But
moving, if you like bring you on, then you gotta move your family. It's crazy.
well, that's all the more reason, right? To
Yeah.
commute for a bit, try it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So now
Sure.
these are some fun questions. So, what would you tell your 20-year-old self if you could go back in time? What would that be? One thing.
Okay. All right. So 20 years ago. So this would be 2005. Well, I guess so that would have been an interesting time. So that would have been just before I got involved in clean energy and started doing a lot with that and spent a lot of time. Uh, so I, for years and years, and even when I was doing the Angel Capital Fund, I used to always quote Winston Churchill: "Never give up, never ever give up, never give up."
Yeah.
I don't believe that anymore.
No.
Yeah,
Pivot. Pivot.
well, give up sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a company, I won't mention the name, but it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
and it's it's like the 34-year-old son or daughter that doesn't move out of the house. I
Yes.
I wired some money earlier today to keep the company going,
Hmm.
and just too much is tied up in it. And the company should have quit the company a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. So there is a last plan and
Yeah.
exit, plan for the stop, which we've done quite, many times over the years. But anyway, bottom line is sometimes you got to know when to quit. Funny
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I think that phrase not quitting should only be for people that are telling you bad things, negative things. You know what I mean? That's when you kind of push through those naysayers. But if it's logical and you're looking at the books and going, hey, this isn't working out, obviously that's a different story, right?
Right,
So
right.
good
And here I
advice.
am, right. But things get, personal and emotional, and your own money's in it, right? And so
Oh,
it's
I know. I've been
so
there.
it's hard. It's hard. It's easy to
Yeah.
give the advice, sometimes hard to do it yourself. So that's certainly one thing I would say.
Hmm.
And then, well, the other would, of course, would be playing the markets,
Yeah. Bitcoin. Why
knowing
didn't
which
I
companies would be successful. And I'd
find
whisper
out
in
where
my
I can
ear,
find Bitcoin for 6,000 for a
buy
penny?
Tesla, buy Tesla,
Tesla.
right?
Right.
I'd be whispering some things in my ear.
That's right. No, very good, very good. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience? Maybe somebody that's new coming up in business. What are some of the important things that they should keep an eye out for if they're, let's say, a startup?
Okay, so I think the latest with startup companies is there's such a volume now of how to play the game to raise
Yeah.
capital and do your angel round thing and do the incubators. And that didn't exist. I guess you mentioned 20 years. It was just starting to form 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
20 years before that, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Um, so I, I would say if you've got a really good idea and you're young and can afford maybe not to make some money for a few years on the bet of something,
Hmm.
there's never been a better time to do it. Really, there hasn't. And
Nice.
actually, if it's a time recession's coming our way, it's maybe the best time to do it
Really?
because there's prices are cheap. If you're going to start a company, prices are cheap. Everyone's looking the other direction. And that's when you can get the licensing technology out of MIT or partner with the unemployed Harvard person or whatever,
Oh,
right?
right.
So it's actually when I've done startups, the two of the best ones I did were in recession times.
Wow.
Anyway, so I think thinking through when and how to start for startup companies to start, and again looking forward even in bad times,
Yeah.
it's sometimes a very good time,
Right.
and take advantage of all the wisdom that's out there and all the avenues.
Yes. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And it's one of those things where I look at it as like any business environment, there's opportunities. Matter of fact, some people become billionaires in some of the worst times. It's just the way the world works. Is you just got to look for them, look for those opportunities. So, well, this has been awesome having you on our show. How can people reach you?
Oh yeah, thanks Dan for asking. Well, I mean, I guess the best would be, I flash up a sign that would have the website, right?
It'll be
But
underneath. Don't worry.
well, the website would be the best. It's CFO Centre, spelled the English way, because we started 25 years ago in the UK,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in 18 countries, but CFOCENTRE.com. And that's
Okay.
probably the best. You can look for CFOs out there and see where we are. And at some point, probably see this podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks, Brad. I appreciate you being on the show, and we'll look forward to getting this out shortly.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.